I fixed Tears of the Kingdom story. Kind of. It's been 2 years since Tears released, and in that time, we've seen it go from one of the most highly anticipated games of all time to a hotly debated, contentious sequel. Sentiment around Tears has been extremely mixed since its release, with a lot of dedicated Zelda fans frustrated at the direction of the story and the implications it has on the series as a whole. But I'm not here to argue whether or not the story is good or a retcon per se. I actually quite like the narrative for Tears of the Kingdom. I'm here to argue that the presentation of Tears' story is its biggest hindrance. This game is a victim of its own design philosophy. The open approach that the Era of the Wild games use is still one of the most highly criticized aspects they have. The memory format gives the player the ability to seek out the story at their own pace, but detracts from a cohesive narrative. Plot points can be found completely out of order and spoil the entire narrative and huge reveals. So I did something about that. I went through and planned out Tears of the Kingdom's story to play like a classic traditional Zelda game. I'm calling it Tears of the Kingdom Classic Mode. This is a strict playthrough that's meant to follow the same pacing as a traditional linear Zelda game. At least that's the idea. This means that a lot of the player freedom you have is tailored more in favor of creating story beats that are more structured and chronological. This doesn't mean that there's no freedom at all. Tears of the Kingdom is impossible to completely structure one specific way with everything that's in it. So this playthrough is more of meant to focus specifically on the story aspects rather than listing every single quest, shrine, and bokoblin you gotta defeat. This allows for the player to experience a more cohesive story while maintaining the openness that makes these games so unique. Here's how it works. I've broken Tears of the Kingdom into 3 acts. Much like many other classic Zelda games, this is meant to mimic the Zelda formula that the series is known for. The first act will have the player complete the tutorial on the Great Sky Island and the first set of dungeons. This means tackling the regional phenomena quests. Act 2 requires you to complete Crisis at Hyrule Castle and the 5th Sage related quests, and Act 3 is all about wrapping it up. Here the goal is to get the Master Sword and defeat Ganondorf. This mirrors the same sort of progression of completing dungeons, getting the Master Sword, and then fighting Ganon that the series is known for. But let's take a closer look at everything required in each act. First, let's go over the general requirements for the entire playthrough. You must complete all main quests and dungeons. You must complete the game with the Master Sword and Hylian Shield equipped. You must have 20 hearts, just like the max number available in a traditional Zelda game, as well as 2 full stamina wheels so that you're able to get the Master Sword. This equates to 64 shrine completions, as well as picking up every heart container after defeating a boss. You also need to activate every tower so that you have a fully unlocked map. You can, of course, activate every map before doing anything else, but I'd recommend spacing them out as you go. I'll go into more detail once we get to those parts. And finally, you need to beat the game wearing either the Tears of the Kingdom armor set or a classic Heroes tunic set. There's also some optional content that I would highly recommend you complete for a more well-rounded experience, but is not required in order to actually beat the game. This includes completing the mayoral election quest for Hateno Village so that you can get the Hylian Hood down option for the Tears of the Kingdom armor set. Completing each dungeon wearing their respective armor for that dungeon, for example, the Snow Quill armor set for the Wind Temple, the Flamebreaker armor set for the Fire Temple, the Zora armor set for the Water Temple, and the Desert Voe armor set for the Lightning Temple. Additionally, for the Construct Factory and Spirit Temple, I kept the Charged armor set on to complete those. All other points in the game, I used the Tears armor set or the Hylian armor set before getting the Champion's Leathers. The questline, A Call from the Depths, is optional due to the reward being a heart container or stamina upgrade, meaning you can choose to do this instead of 4 shrines for an upgrade. The Depths quest, A Mystery in the Depths, and Master Koga of the Yiga clan can be completed at any time once available, but I will have them structured out for specific times during this playthrough if you wish to spread that out a little bit more. Last, all Sky Island and Depths content that isn't directly mentioned can be played at your discretion. This allows for you to still have player freedom in the form of exploration, but isn't necessary for the story to stay structured. All other quests and content can be played at any time you like. The first act requires you to complete the opening of the game. This means completing the Great Sky Island and the 4 shrines found there. After which, you'll make your way over to Lookout Landing and talk to Purah. She'll tell you to meet with Captain Hawes, and after seeing Zelda's apparition at Hyrule Castle, Purah will give you the Regional Phenomena quest, the first main quest that you need to take into account. Purah will have you activate the Lookout Landing Skyview Tower, unlocking the map and activating the other towers across Hyrule. Once you talk to her again, she'll update your map to show the locations of these strange happenings in Hyrule. Pura lists them in this order: Hebra, Eldin, Gerudo, and lastly, Lanayru. This could be looked at as the canon order to complete them in, but we're actually going to tweak it a little bit. We will still start in the Hebra region and the Wind Temple because there's more dialogue that pushes you into that direction. Additionally, if we draw from a previous Zelda game for comparison, the first proper dungeon in The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker is Dragon Roost Island, the home of the Rito tribe. So going off of those parallels, the Wind Temple is our first dungeon to tackle. But before we get there, there's a few things we need to take care of and some quest lines we need to begin. To start, this playthrough is built to stagger your progression on health and stamina. So that means in between each dungeon or main section, you'll need to complete 10 shrines. Of course, if you want to do more, that's completely up to you, but this is meant to give you your 20 hearts by the end of the game and to make it more of a challenge as you go. Basically, this is a stopgap so you aren't overpowered. Before leaving Lookout Landing, you should talk to Joshua, who will give you the Camera Works in the Depths questline. I recommend going ahead and just doing this now, so that once we complete our first dungeon, the A Mystery in the Depths quest becomes available. On your way out, swing by the shop and grab the Hylian armor. This is going to give us our hero look until we're able to get the Champion's Leathers. Once you're out of Lookout Landing, you'll make your way towards Rito Village, completing your first 10 shrines as you go. Note that what shrines you do isn't a factor here, but I would recommend just doing the ones that are in your path and that you see as you make your way to your destinations. For example, there's a few shrines just right outside of Lookout Landing, and these are prime examples of shrines to look for. If you're wanting to keep pace with this playthrough, just make sure you don't exceed 10 shrines before you get to your next dungeon. Taking the west road out of Lookout Landing, you'll head towards the New Serene stable in the Hyrule Ridge area. At this stable, you'll find Impa, who will have you start the Impa in the Geoglyphs quest. After talking to Impa, activate the first tier. Impa will then head off to another location. Activate the tower and head to the Forgotten Temple. Inside, you'll learn about all the geoglyphs across Hyrule and the order in which they are presented. Normally, you could go to all the memories at any time, but this is a huge part of why I'm making this. Pacing the memories out significantly makes the story more engaging and better paced, rewarding you with narrative after you've completed a major part of the game. You know, like how most stories work. So each section will have you complete a couple of the geoglyphs at a time. After starting the Dragon's Tears quest, you can head out of the Forgotten Temple and activate Tier 2 found in the Tabantha Hills and activate the Pikita Stonegrove Tower. Make your way to Rito Village and start the quest to get to the Wind Temple. While you're looking for Tulin, go ahead and turn in some of your shrine blessings and knock out our last tower for this area, the Rosspro Pass Tower. From here, just follow the story and complete the Wind Temple. Importantly, after you beat the Wind Temple, Impa does show up in Rito Village and tells you the next tier you should seek out. I never noticed this in my original playthrough, and as best I can tell, she does this at least a couple times. It's a really cool detail that kind of directs you into doing the tiers in the quote-unquote correct order. So with most of the prerequisites out of the way and the general progression laid out, let's quickly recap so you have an accurate understanding. After Lookout Landing, you should have completed 10 shrines, started Impa in the Geoglyphs, and the Dragon's Tears quest. You should have activated Tier 1 and 2, activated Lindor's Brow, Pikita Stonegrove, and Rosspro Pass Towers, and completed the Rito quest line and Wind Temple. Next, you'll cut across the top of Hyrule and make your way over to our next destination, Death Mountain. Across the entire series, the Fire Temple or Death Mountain has been the second dungeon you go to. So in keeping with that tradition, the Lost City of Gorondia is the next dungeon on the list. Crossing over into Eldin, you should complete 10 more shrines, activate the Typhlo Ruins, Eldin Canyon, and Ulri Mountain Towers, and before going to Goron City, you should activate Tier 3, found a little southwest of the Eldin Canyon Tower, and watch it. I decided that for Tier 3, you should wait until you're already in this area to activate it, just to cut down on the backtracking a little bit. Unfortunately, just given the nature of the placement of the tiers, this is about the only instance where you aren't going to have to backtrack a little. So with that in mind, going forward, the specific tiers for the section you're in can be viewed at any time before you complete that dungeon. Turn in more of your shrine blessings and complete the Goron City questline and the Fire Temple. Some optional content you can do is going back to Lookout Landing and starting the Mystery in the Depths questline. Following that, we'll give you auto build and start the Master Koga of the Depths questline. After completing the Fire Temple, you need to view the next set of tiers in this order. This is important because following these tiers this way will make them make more sense chronologically. You'll need to view tier number 6 first, then tier 4, and tier 5. Doing so makes the encounters with Ganondorf make more sense, as well as suggesting that Zelda has been spending a lot of time with Sonia to hone her abilities. While crossing Hyrule to view these tiers, you can activate the Hyrule Field, Sahasra Slope, Gerudo Highlands, and Gerudo Canyon Towers. If you'd rather activate the towers as you progress through each region, you can. This just means less backtracking and easier access to the tiers. I'd recommend doing the towers purely out of convenience, but it is a preference. Additionally, if you are continuing the Mystery in the Depths quest into the Master Koga of the Yiga quest line, then while you're in this area, go ahead and find Koga at the abandoned Gerudo mine and progress that story. Complete 10 more shrines as you cross Hyrule. Once you've viewed those tiers and got your shrines, make your way over into the Lanayru province. Again, keeping with tradition of classic Zelda, our third temples are usually water related. Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess being some key examples. Here we'll activate the Upland Zorana, Mount Lanayru, Rebella Wetlands, and Poplar Foothills Towers. Once in Zora's domain, redeem your shrine blessings and start the Zora questline and beat the Water Temple. Note that if you are doing the optional requirement of using the themed armor for each dungeon, that it's not possible to have the full set of Zora armor before the dungeon, so just make do with what Zora armor you do have. After beating the dungeon, make your way towards Hateno Village and seek out Zelda's secret well and activate the quest A New Champion's Tunic. This will let us know how to get the Champion's Leathers so we can get the Tears of the Kingdom look. Optionally, you can complete the Mayoral questline so that you have access to the Hood Down option for the Hylian Hood. This is necessary if you're opting to do the Tears armor set over a classic Hero's Tunic. If you are still doing the Master Koga questline, then seek him out in the abandoned Lanayru mine. Once done in Hateno, activate tiers number 7 and number 8. After viewing those tiers, you'll be heading out to our last regional phenomena in the Gerudo Desert. I saved the Lightning Temple as the last of our initial dungeons purely because it mirrors Arbiter's Grounds and Twilight Princess, as the fourth dungeon being desert related. As you go, complete another 10 shrines and redeem them once in Gerudo Town. Start the Gerudo questline and beat the Lightning Temple. After completing the dungeons, you will report back to Pura and start Crisis at Hyrule Castle, taking us into Act number 2. Before reporting back to Pura, go ahead and complete another 10 shrines and redeem them right away in Lookout Landing. Complete the Crisis at Hyrule Castle quest. Once Phantom Ganon is defeated and the cutscene is concluded, take this time to explore Hyrule Castle a bit more and gear up. While in the Sanctum, complete the New Champion's Tunic quest and get the Champion's Leathers. This is also a good time to get the Hylian Shield if you didn't already when you were first approaching Hyrule Castle. Remember, it is a requirement to have the Hylian Shield. After you've looted up, report back to Pura and begin the search for the 5th Sage. At this point, you need to view tiers number 9, 10, and 11. Tier 11 breaks the continuity of the story, unfortunately. Meaning that even though I tried to piece this together as best as I could, there's still some limitations just due to how the game tells its story. I'll go over the finer details once we get to the Spirit Temple, but for the best possible way to experience the story chronologically, you need to watch these tiers before starting the 5th Sage questlines. From this point on, you can complete your remaining 10 shrines and redeem them. After viewing the tiers, make your way over to Kakariko Village and begin the Secret of the Ring Ruins quest. This questline will lead you to the Thunderhead Isles and Dragonhead Island, where you'll find Mineru's artifact. This begins the Guidance from Ages Past quest. The artifact leads you into the depths to the Construct Factory and our final dungeon, the Spirit Temple. Upon completing the Spirit Temple, Mineru shows us a series of cutscenes. Because Mineru tells you of the imprisoning war and then immediately about Zelda having the Master Sword, it breaks the continuity. In order for the narrative to flow chronologically, Tier 11 would have needed to be watched in between the 2 Mineru cutscenes after completing the Spirit Temple. The only way to make this somewhat work is to view Tier 11 before doing the Spirit Temple. After completing the Spirit Temple, if you're still doing Koga's quest, make your way to his final location in the abandoned Heber mine. Do the last part of his quest after the Spirit Temple so the continuity of fighting a seized construct isn't ruined. Otherwise, finishing up with Mineru takes us to our last part, Act 3. For the final act, you need to complete the Trial of the Master Sword questline. Doing so, the Great Deku Tree will sense where the Master Sword is and point out that it's moving. You might have noticed that after tier 11, we didn't go immediately to the final tier. I left the final tier for this moment because I believe it makes the most sense for the story in terms of placement as well as impact. It made sense to have this memory here given this whole act of the game centers around finding the Master Sword. We know everything that has happened up to this point and that Zelda was responsible for restoring the Master Sword, we just didn't quite know exactly how. So I placed this here to be a huge impactful moment, and I found that it was pretty effective. Even though the concept of draconification kind of spools the entire story very early on in tier number 3, as well as just the constant reminders during the cutscenes of draconification, this was still a very moving and powerful moment in the game, and I really believe that progressing the story in the way that I've laid out helped to make it that way. So after visiting with the Deku Tree, you'll complete the final tier. I also did it this way because the Light Dragon will be directly above you as soon as you're done with the memory. This just saves you a little bit of time trying to track her down. From here, complete recovering the Hero Sword and obtain the Master Sword. All that's left to do now is to defeat the Demon King. Reporting back to Purah, she'll say just as much, and if you've completed the Master Koga of the Depths questline, you'll know where to find Ganondorf. Otherwise, Purah will direct you to talk to Joshua, who will direct you towards completing the Koga questline. This is why this is an optional quest. You have the ability to do it all at once at the end of the game, spread it out to give you more things to do as you play along, or just completely ignoring it and going straight to Ganondorf. Now, it's time to defeat Ganondorf. I'd highly recommend stockpiling Gloom Recovery foods and fairies just to be safe. I can't speak to everyone else's skill level, but I found the boss fight to be fairly challenging at only 20 hearts. Of course, going into this fight, make sure that you are equipped with the proper armor and the Hylian shield. I know Ganondorf loves to destroy shields, so even if it's just for the cutscenes, swap over to it so the effect of looking like a traditional Link is there. Lastly, all you gotta do now is to destroy Ganondorf. I know for most of us, we prefer to have an engaging and active story. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. And so much of how Tears of the Kingdom story is presented just isn't that. But at this point, I think it's time we stop worrying about what Tears of the Kingdom isn't and just try to appreciate it for what it is. I think this game gets a bad rap. It's not perfect, sure, but it still has some incredibly cool moments and wonderful, lively performances. I think to write this game's story off as a complete negative because of the lore or because of the memory format does a disservice to how cool of an experience it is when confined to this era of Hyrule. My hope is that maybe trying Tears of the Kingdom in this way will change some perspectives, even just a little. I found it to be an incredibly fun way to approach the game, and I hope that if you're looking to replay it anytime soon, that you'll give this a try. That, of course, will bring us to the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching this. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. This actually had a lot more going into it than you would maybe assume. There's a lot of nuance and some little like hiccup things here and there, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast with these games. But with that being said, I had a lot of fun playing the game this way, and I hope you guys do too if you give it a shot. As always, thank you to all the channel members. You can become a channel member if you hit that join button down there and get some exclusive perks like your name mentioned in every edited video or role in my Discord, as well as cool emotes that you can use in videos and live streams. Also, if you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing if you like Zelda content. We got a lot of fun Zelda stuff coming out. I wanted to make sure to get this video out before the Switch 2 and the Switch 2 versions of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, just because, you know, this a lot of people probably going back to replay those games, and, you know, if you're wanting to find those hidden little lore bits in the Zelda Notes app, then what better way to play the game than in a linear fashion? So, of course, with Age of Imprisonment coming out too, these are all things that are going to be fresh on the mind, so I felt like this was a great opportunity to showcase the game. But that, of course, is going to bring us to the end. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I will see you in the next one.